Of our negotiation was to ensure that there would be no pathway for Iran to achieve nuclear weapons capability. And this deal doesn't achieve that.
This agreement is too flawed and too dangerous for us.
I read the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action last night, over 100 pages. I'll be honest, I was skeptical going in. There's nothing that I read last night that alleviates my skepticism.
Look, the fact is the deal has been flawed from the beginning. I think the president laid that case out in his statement today. He gave the Europeans and others a chance to fix it. It was not doable because the flaws go right to the foundations of the deal. So he did what he clearly advertised he was going to do as far back as the 2016 campaign, pulled the United States out of the deal. Why? Because it's in our security interest to get out of this flawed deal.
John Kerry.
Until today, until this afternoon, the policy of the United States of America was to be in the Iran agreement. Until today, our nation remained one of the guiding forces within that agreement, and only today did the policy change. My conversations with these people are the normal conversations that I assure you every former Secretary of State has with leaders in other countries. And all I did was suggest to them, look, you guys really ought to try to keep the agreement.
Look, John Kerry's objective was to get a deal. So it's not surprising John Kerry's objective today was to keep the deal. It's the wrong objective. The objective should be to prevent Iran from getting deliverable nuclear weapons.
Well, Brett, the sanctions actually kick in now, but there's what we call a wind down and maintenance period. So we wanted to be very careful. People can't do new business, but people who have existing business will have a period of time. There's two tranches, a 90-day tranche for most things, and then a 180-day tranche for energy-related and miscellaneous items. And we wanted to be careful on the energy markets that we had an orderly transition away from Iranian oil. Well, I think we're ready to renegotiate now. I think the president's been very clear since the campaign and since he came into office. This is a bad deal. He's focused on the term of the deal. We don't want Iran ever to have nuclear weapons. He's focused on the ballistic missiles, and he's focused on the state-sponsored terrorism. We've had lots of discussions with our allies. We'll continue to do that, and I and Secretary Pompeo have had a lot of discussions, and we'll continue to do that with our counterparts. Well, Brett, let's be clear. This wasn't necessarily a legally binding deal. The previous administration never took this to Congress to have it passed. He made it clear 3 months ago this was the last time he was going to sign the waivers unless there was a new deal. And, we'll continue to work with our allies. So what's next is the sanctions go in place. We're going to cut off the money to fund Iran's bad behavior, and we're going to work with our allies to fix the deal and get a new deal. It was very clear. He wants to support the people of Iran. There are a lot of people there. They can have a bright future, but their bright future doesn't include nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and state-sponsored terrorism.
You're making it harder to go after Hezbollah. You're making it harder to go after Iranian activities that are really dangerous. And you're probably making it harder to come to a North Korea deal.
The people in Britain and in France and in Germany think the world is safe. But the people who actually were the guinea pigs in this experiment, the Israelis and the Arabs who came out both.
And you mentioned that obviously the Saudis came out big time in support, other Arab nations.
And the Emirates gave a public endorsement of this because they have seen the consequences for their own country. And as I've said for years, when Israelis and Arabs are on the same page, people should pay attention. We were the guinea pigs in this experiment. It has gone very wrong. And we are very grateful for President Trump for making this courageous decision to shift course. And this
is an enormous amount of money
that
is flowing into this account beginning in October, November, December time period of 2016. You've got millions of dollars that are being deposited into this account. Michael Cohen appears to be selling access to the President of the United States. We now have multiple different things, supposedly, that Michael Cohen was doing for all these companies. Now we hear from Novartis that he was hired on healthcare matters. Evidently, he's a doctor. One of the companies mentioned they hired him for real estate matters. He's a real estate agent. Another company stated that they hired him for accounting advice. Evidently, he's an accountant. So he's a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, and a real estate agent. I'm just a lawyer. I'm not that bright, I guess. Well, Michael Cohen, the personal attorney to the president, at the right hand of the president, who, by the way, if you go on his LinkedIn page this morning, you'll see that he still lists himself as an attorney for the president of the United States, and he lists himself as being with Trump Organization, as I recall. I checked it last night. Your viewers can check me out on that. But look, you have the right hand of the president, the personal attorney of the president, associating with individuals with significant Russian ties in January of 2017, accepting money from individuals with Russian ties. I mean, look, this does not smell right, and I'm not alone in this. There's a reason why Mr. Mueller and his team questioned the oligarch at the airport here recently relating to these exact payments.
Are they giving money for access to Trump? And did any of the money eventually go to Trump?
Well, those are the questions that are unanswered, Shep. And certainly that is something that the FBI not only is looking at, already has looked at. And let's not forget that the charges that are being looked at were remanded back to New York. So they may not have seen anything necessarily with a connection between Cohen's activities and the Trump-Russia investigation. And you know, Shep, what happens in politics and when you investigate political corruption cases is guys like Cohen want to sell, they want to peddle out there like, hey, I've got influence, I've got access, I can help you out. You pay me money, I'll give you the inside track, I'll let you know what the candidate is thinking, I'll let you know how to approach him. It very well could be that these companies went out there for that kind of information, which is on the line of the law, but not necessarily over the line.
Do you think Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is really a viable contender against Democratic Senator Joe Manchin?
Absolutely. Morrisey ran a very good campaign. He's won statewide races twice in West Virginia. This was a very tough primary, and Morrisey emerged with a pretty decisive victory, 6 points ahead of the nearest opponent. And he's a pit bull campaigner. He's very aggressive. So Morrisey will be strong against Joe Manchin in a state that is conservative.
Voters are most concerned about when they weigh the two, Morrisey versus Manchin.
Well, there are a lot of factors here. The economy is always an issue in West Virginia. Jobs and the economy, that's always a big issue. We have a major opioid crisis in West Virginia. We have the worst opioid problems in America, so that's always an issue. Then for conservative voters in West Virginia, as I said, there's a lot of those. They're always worried about Manchin, whether he gets too far to the left. So that's on the minds of voters. And Manchin, I think he'll just run as Manchin. That is, you know me. I've been around. I've been governor. I've been Secretary of State. You know I have your best interests at heart. So keep me in Washington. So you have a lot of dynamics here at play in this contest coming up in November.